President Trump threatening to slap China with additional tariffs.
U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened an additional 50% tax on Chinese goods if Beijing doesn't drop its 34% retaliatory tariff on U.S. products.
China announced this morning that from next week they will be imposing 34% tariffs on all U.S. goods from April 10.
Now, China, the dominant global supplier of rare earth elements, has escalated its economic influence by imposing new export restrictions on critical materials.
US President Donald Trump is igniting trade wars. Trump's heavy tariffs on imported goods have caused great discomfort among many trading partners, especially China.
Let's say China. 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 China.
But China's response has been much harsher than Trump expected. This unexpected move has turned into a global chess game in which Mr. President cannot hide his anger. In retaliation for Trump's tariffs, China has imposed sweeping restrictions on exports of rare earths, the unsung but indispensable heroes of the tech world. As the largest global supplier of these 17 special minerals, which are at the heart of hundreds of products from electric vehicles to missiles, smartphones to radar systems, China is now using this power as economic leverage. According to leaks from the Washington lobbies, Trump has reacted strongly to this move, saying they targeted our revenue stream and is considering retaliation options. But how will China's strategic coup affect US technology production? What does this move mean for the global supply chain? How will the Trump administration respond to this rare threat? For answers to our questions and more, here is our video. But first, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and give us a like to stay up to date with our content. China has become the first major country to respond to Donald Trump's global trade war with tariffs against the United States. China's Ministry of Finance announced that Beijing will impose tariffs of 34% on all US imports, in addition to existing tariffs. The new measures will take effect one day after April 10th, when Trump's retaliatory tariffs on China and other US trading partners are scheduled to begin. China's announcement is in the same vein as the US move. The US has imposed 34% tariffs on Chinese goods, on top of the 20% tariffs imposed over the past 2 months and pre-existing tariffs. In total, the successive blows will bring the average tariff rate on Chinese imports to 76%. This goes beyond the 60% tariffs Trump threatened to impose on China during the election campaign. China exports about $440 billion worth of goods to the US, from iPhones to toys. Trump's tariffs on these imports are expected to reduce US GDP and increase inflation. Moreover, China's countermoves do not stop there. Beijing has announced export restrictions on 7 types of heavy rare earths, powerful raw materials that underpin advanced weapon systems and green technologies. The list of rare earths announced includes samarium, gadolinium, terbium, dysprosium, lutetium, scandium, and yttrium. However, the most common elements, neodymium and praseodymium, were not included. These are used in powerful magnets, one of the best-known applications for rare earths. By targeting rare earths, Beijing is highlighting one of Washington's fundamental weaknesses. China largely dominates the supply chains for most of the world's critical minerals, but its dominance over global rare earth supply chains is overwhelming. Today, Chinese companies account for about 85% of rare earth processing and 92% of magnet production. Beijing has previously banned the export of rare earth magnet production, extraction, and separation technologies. Beijing has imposed similar restrictions on other critical minerals such as gallium, germanium, graphite, and antimony in the past 2 years amid rising trade tensions. For Washington, this means pouring more gasoline on the fire. The latest export controls are not a blanket ban, but they do mean that any overseas shipments will be subject to greater scrutiny over who buys them and why. Other metals saw export volumes plummet to zero after the controls were implemented, and exporters needed time to obtain certificates. The new controls could further tighten global supply. According to a statement from the China Non-Ferrous Metals Industry Association, the export restrictions will not harm the stability of the international supply chain. But the move has raised concerns in Washington, which has been trying to break free from Beijing's influence for years and has made building new critical minerals supply chains a top priority under the second Trump administration. Donald Trump has vowed to impose an additional 50% tariff on China if Beijing does not lift its retaliatory tariffs on the United States. Despite these threats, Beijing's export restrictions on rare earths weaken the US hand. The creation and functioning of modern industries and technology depends on critical minerals as raw materials. In industries such as electronics, renewable energy, defense and transportation, these minerals are essential. The production of vital technologies such as semiconductors, electric cars, and military systems explains their strategic importance. Numerous minerals are essential for modern industrial and technical operations. Rare earth elements are particularly important because they are used to make permanent magnets, which are essential for devices such as wind turbines and electric cars. Lithium is needed to create highly efficient lithium-ion batteries, while cobalt and nickel are important for energy storage and performance. Other minerals such as graphite and manganese are essential for various industrial uses and battery technology. Moreover, advanced industrial, aerospace and renewable energy solutions depend on niobium, tantalum, platinum group elements, tungsten, titanium and aluminum. The complex and diverse function of essential minerals in the trade relationship between the US and China reflects the growing importance of resources in both geopolitics and trade. Supply chain vulnerability is an important factor. Securing reliable supplies of vital minerals for high-tech industries such as electronics, renewable energy, and defense is strategically important, and both the US and China understand this. Global supply chains have vulnerabilities due to the trade war, especially for resources such as lithium, cobalt, and rare earth elements. Industrial and technological progress could suffer significantly if supplies of these resources are disrupted. Economic leverage also plays a major role in the US-China trade dynamic, as control over vital mineral resources becomes a tactic to gain an advantage in trade negotiations. As both countries work to diversify their sources of supply and reduce their dependence on each other, there is more competition for access to these commodities. Each country seeks to influence the other by controlling access to vital resources, either through domestic production or international cooperation. To guarantee a consistent supply of these vital resources, this competition has led to investments in mining, refining, and exploration, as well as the creation of other trade routes. Another important factor fueling the US-China struggle for vital minerals is technological development. These materials are essential for the creation of cutting-edge technologies, including quantum computing, 5G networks, electric cars, and artificial intelligence. With the US and China having made significant investments in technologies that depend on vital minerals, ensuring a stable supply is vital to maintaining technological advantage. The broader geopolitical competition, in which technological superiority is increasingly seen as an important component of global power, is intricately tied to this competition for resources. The US-China trade dynamic on vital minerals is further complicated by national security concerns. Both countries import a large number of minerals, especially rare earth elements. The serious national security threats posed by this dependence have triggered calls for greater self-sufficiency. Efforts to reduce dependence on foreign sources have been triggered by US dependence on China for rare earths. Similarly, China has worked to mitigate risks by ensuring reliable supply chains and reducing reliance on imports from countries that may not share its strategic objectives. Both countries are trying to improve their own mining capacities, forge alliances with countries with abundant natural resources, and guarantee reliable global supply chains to address these issues. As both countries work to meet ambitious renewable energy targets while navigating the competitive global resource landscape, the growing demand for essential minerals, especially in the context of the green energy transition, adds another layer of complexity to the US-China trade relationship. With significant implications for both countries and the global economy, the the US-China critical minerals nexus serves as a critical battleground in the broader framework of geopolitical and economic competition. China has significant influence in the high-tech and renewable energy sectors that are essential for economic growth and innovation due to its superiority in extracting, refining, and supplying vital minerals. The US is actively working to diversify its sources, promote domestic production, and strengthen its international ties to reduce its reliance on Chinese imports. The far-reaching effects of this competition include affecting international supply chains, the rate of technical development, and the transition to sustainable energy. Recognizing the strategic importance of ensuring a stable and diverse supply, the US has taken a comprehensive and multi-pronged approach to reducing its dependence on China for essential minerals, increasing domestic production of essential minerals through programs to open new mines, advance mining technology, and promote resource extraction innovation is a key component of this plan. It is placing a higher priority on diversifying supply chains by strengthening alliances with allies such as the US, Australia, Canada, and various European states to gain access to essential minerals that are not under Chinese control. Initiatives are also being taken to promote the recycling of essential minerals to reduce dependence on new mining and contribute to the development of a more sustainable supply chain. These tactics aim to reduce vulnerabilities and ensure that the US can remain competitive in the expanding global market for essential minerals, especially those needed for clean energy transitions and innovative technologies. The US has taken the initiative to reduce its dependence on China for vital minerals, spearheading programs such as the Mineral Security Partnership and the Quad Critical Minerals Partnership Act. These programs aim to build more robust supply networks by encouraging cooperation between allies. Australia, rich in essential minerals, has emerged as a critical partner as the US extends subsidies to friendly countries. Moreover, the establishment of the Neutral Critical Minerals Policy Working Group is indicative of a determined attempt to develop policies that will protect and diversify the country's vital mineral resources, guaranteeing technical competitiveness and energy security. By strengthening these foreign alliances and reducing the risks associated with overdependence on Chinese resources, the US hopes to improve mineral security and advance geopolitical stability. Emphasizing both legislative measures and investments in domestic production capacity, the US has created a comprehensive plan to reduce its dependence on China for essential minerals. This plan calls for international cooperation with allies, additional funding for mining, exploration and processing technologies, and regulations to ensure a more robust supply chain. These initiatives aim to reduce dependence on Chinese exports, promote cooperation in mining, recycling and technology development, and diversify the supply of essential minerals. Through executive directives and legislative actions, the Trump and Biden administrations have significantly addressed vulnerabilities in the vital mineral supply chain. The Trump administration's Executive Order 197 aimed to recognize and mitigate the risks associated with disruptions in mineral supplies. Meanwhile, President Biden's Executive Order 117 placed a strong emphasis on reducing dependence on foreign suppliers, particularly China, and strengthening the US supply chain for vital minerals. Legislative initiatives, including the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act, allocated funding and offered incentives to improve domestic production and processing of vital minerals under the Biden administration. To guarantee a secure and reliable supply of these vital resources, the Department of Commerce has also created a federal strategy that prioritizes innovation, support for local extraction, and the development of global alliances to reduce supply chain vulnerabilities. These efforts, which take a coordinated approach to acquiring vital minerals for the energy, defense, and technology sectors, will strengthen the US strategic position in this critical area. The Trump administration has prioritized supporting American businesses and workers while increasing US mineral production, particularly extraction. Some of the key tactics included imposing tariffs on mineral imports, speeding up the mining project permitting process, and offering financial incentives for domestic mineral extraction. Using legal instruments, including the International Emergency Economic Powers Act and Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, the government increased tariffs to reduce dependence on foreign minerals, especially those originating from China. It has also streamlined the permitting process for mining ventures by repealing some environmental laws and allowing the operation of additional federal lands. The Trump administration has also increased eligibility for already existing programs such as the Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Program, shifted government funding to domestic mining projects, and enacted Made in America Acts to encourage domestic production. The aim of these initiatives was to strengthen the domestic mineral supply chain and reduce dependence on imports. Many nations are reassessing their supply strategies due to US-China competition in essential minerals, which is changing the dynamics of the global market. Major economies, including the European Union, are working to secure alternative supply chains, increase domestic industrial capacities, and reduce their dependence on China. These nations are also promoting international cooperation to mitigate the dangers of China's hegemony in response to geopolitical challenges. Resource-rich countries such as Mexico, Chile, Zimbabwe, and Indonesia are also taking action to tighten control over their mineral resources. Several countries are enacting nationalization laws and export restrictions to encourage local processing and extract more value from their resources. Australia, a major participant in the vital minerals market, is reassessing its geopolitical alliances, particularly with China, and moving closer to US interests. This shift is driven by a desire to expand its alliances, promote economic stability, and help diversify global supply. In short, the quest for access to vital minerals between the US and China has intensified, and both countries are using calculated tactics that interfere with international supply chains. China has restricted exports of vital minerals such as gallium, germanium, and graphite to maintain its supremacy. In response, the US has imposed tariffs that create uncertainty for sectors dependent on these resources, such as technology, defense, and clean energy. This could destabilize global markets. The US's significant dependence on China for vital minerals, which account for more than 60% of rare earth imports, has raised concerns about national security. The US is focusing on increasing domestic production, building foreign alliances, and investing in recycling technology to diversify supply chains and reduce dependence. International cooperation is needed to secure vital mineral supply chains. Programs such as the Supply Chain Resilience Initiative and the Quad Critical Minerals Partnership demonstrate the need for collaborative frameworks. These frameworks can guarantee fair trade practices while reducing risks and costs and promoting cooperative investment. By balancing commercial interests with national security, voluntary agreements to restrict export bans could further stabilize world mineral markets. As the world's drive for sustainable energy increases, so does the need to secure vital mineral supply chains. The challenge is to strike a balance between cooperation and competitiveness, especially given persistent geopolitical tensions. Long-term economic stability and the sustainable development of green energy technologies are vital not only for the US and China, but for the entire world economy. In this context, trade tensions between the two superpowers are no longer just a struggle for balance, but also directly affect the security of global supply chains and the future of the energy transition. Limited access to strategic raw materials such as rare earths could threaten the production capacity of many sectors, from electric vehicles to renewable energy systems. How this tug-of-war plays out could therefore determine not only economic indicators, but also the process of achieving climate goals. Thank you for watching.